Alright, so, hello, I thought this would be an interesting topic. I kind of just want to do this quick little video, but first I'll take out all my sort of identifying stuff. I mean, my name pretty much has been on this channel for a while, but I still don't want to give any major info away that could result in my identity being stolen and such. I'm sure you're aware. But yeah, sort of want to talk about wallets, specifically the ones I currently use. So now I have seen a lot of popularity for the Ridge wallet and all these sorts of really small types of wallets that they've got a decent amount of room for cards, which I get there's a lot more cards going around now, not so much cash. But the thing is that there's barely any room for cash now. Sure, while day to day you're not going to use that much cash, you're occasionally going to run into scenarios where you're probably going to be using a lot of cash. Sure, if you're, say, don't make a lot of money, these occasions are probably going to be fairly rare when you're going to go for a big fun night out. Maybe go to a strip club, maybe go to a casino or some other place where, typically you'll use have a large amount of cash. But yeah, Ridge wallets are not that, say, accessible. Now, I'll take out the cash. Take this wallet. This is my wallet. Pretty darn thin. Relatively slim. Yeah. This is with nothing in it, though. It gets a bit thicker, not much, and the thickness really depends on what you use. But this is a Swiss Army deal, or I don't know exactly the name of the company. It's just got that typical, Swiss cross on it. Something. I've had this wallet for like 14 years, roughly. I've had it since I was like 10, I'm pretty sure. I don't know when exactly I got it, how I got it. That's been lost. I've had it so long since I was a kid. I don't really even remember. I've had it, I think, longer than, yeah, because for a long time, I didn't have a freaking ID, and I was so happy once I finally got a freaking ID. And then when my ID was actually facing this way instead of the vertical one. Like, that's how freaking long. I've probably had it for like 14 years. Now, I don't know for certain, but I've had it for a long time, so yeah. I've had it for at least, what is it? 8 years, if not, at the bare minimum, I'm pretty sure 8 years. Maximum 14-ish. Could be 16, who knows. But roughly around 14, 16. I definitely didn't have it when I was like 5. It's probably more around the 10-year-old range. So that's generally, but yeah. So as you can see, this wallet, there's like about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 credit card slots here, then 1, 2, 3 on the other side. So that's about 8 total credit card slots, plus 1 designated identification slot. And then there are 2 slots for cash. Now, if you use both of them, you're typically going to only use one. I mostly use one. I'll occasionally accidentally use both, or sometimes, occasionally, I'll intentionally separate to delineate between different things, to separate different cache if I'm trying to, you know, if I'm planning on using the cache for 2 different purposes, I'm going to separate, okay, this is the cache for X, this is the cache for Y. But yeah, and that's not over because, you know, there's also the side pockets you see here. So there's extra room if you have more cards that you use. Maybe you want to stick the cards that aren't at a larger priority, or the cards maybe you want to tuck away that you want to be hidden from view, say a room key or something like that. That's great. You could also stick extra cash in here. I've done that on a number of occasions, maybe larger bills, etc. So there's a lot of freaking functionality, and while it's a little bit clunkier than the Ridge wallet, comparatively there's a lot more functionality, and it's got, you know, the typical wallety look compared to Ridge wallet, which is definitely a cool design, cool new design. This has got some pretty great style points as well. I would pay probably $50, maybe more, depending on how the market is today, but I feel like this is a good $50 wallet range. Whereas Ridge wallet, if the functionality was a lot better, I could, given that it's, you know, legitimate titanium stuff, I could maybe be interested in paying 60, maybe 70. So getting a lot closer to the their asking price, which is about $100, but given its very limited functionality, and given that this wallet that I've used for so many years is very functional, minimally clunky. Well, I mean, it can get a lot clunkier, but that depends on how much you want it to carry. Like if you put like, say thousands of dollars worth of cash in here, yeah, it's gonna get pretty darn clunky, but that's also because you want it to be clunky. Like, you could just pay with a card, but for certain avenues, like say if you're going to a casino or a strip club or wherever, and you're wanting to, you know, you saved up a bit, you want to go big and have a crazy night or crazy few nights, who knows, and you're dropping that kind of cash, well then, or if you're going to drop that kind of money and you're going to choose between a card or cash, you're going to be spending a lot more if you're dropping on a card than if you're paying cash. So, frankly, it's more financially responsible to spend a large wad of cash than a large amount on a card, because they're gonna add. Because if you do straight card, they're gonna add in credit card fees that they charge specifically for usage of a credit card. So that's gonna be a decent upcharge too. Even if you say, and let's say if you do end up getting cash, but you use the ATM that's located directly there, they're going to charge you a decent ATM fee. And while it's true, it's usually about it's only $3 to $10 per, which $10 is generally on the upper scale. Could be more, but I've never encountered an ATM fee higher than 10. Typically, those fees are per transaction, and typically, no, I encountered one ATM in Nebraska that lets you get out $500 per transaction. Most ATMs only allow $200 per transaction, so that's at most about $10 per 200, and that adds up pretty quickly. So yeah, you're gonna be wanting to so yeah, you're gonna that's gonna be that adds up. That's gonna be pretty expensive. So what you'd want is to be able to have an adequate cash carrying device from your home to the point of spending. And a wallet is just such a device. And the Ridge wallets are not that good of carrying. And now, this is, I would say, is A tier. And thing is, just to put this home, when I lost my wallet briefly last year. Now, my dad, nice enough, we went out shopping and he was willing to buy me some pretty darn expensive wallets that were generally, most of them were pretty much in line with the Ridge wallet because that's the new in design these days. And I'm like, yeah, they're cool, but I don't have much use for them. And you're looking at how much they're costing, and it's like, shit, this ain't worth this. As they're charging like what, 60, sometimes 100 fucking dollars. I mean, these wallets ain't worth that. Ridge, it's like 105 to 120 or 115, whichever one that is. I'm like, I wouldn't pay more than $10 for. I wouldn't pay a nickel over 10 for the limited functionality I get out of these because, I mean, there'd be no point. Because I don't go super crazy all the freaking time. I do like to, save up and go to a club here and there. And now I'm not dropping thousands of dollars every time. I'm dropping a few hundred every time. And so, yeah, it's just not that practical for me to have a Ridge wallet where I can only hold a few freaking bills at a time. It's just not very practical, especially when you're going to probably be holding a bunch of ones. So, yeah, it's not super practical. And funnily enough, my dad then got me this at like a gas station, or I don't know remember where I got it, but if I recall correctly, it was a gas station, and he said it cost $10. Roughly $10, maybe 11. Could have been 20. Honestly, I would freaking pay 20 for this. But I wouldn't pay more than 10 for that Ridge wallet because while it does look cool, one, lack of familiarity with the design and lack of functionality for some of the purposes that I value in my current wallets. If I'm not getting that, in my book, that tanks the value. I would pay $20. At most, maybe 30 for this. Granted, it's a lot cheaper quality from probably the Ridge wallet, but the functionality is key. Also, I much prefer this cool design with the traditional special ID placeholder because I find that pretty darn cool in wallets. Because functionality is cool, but also some design elements are pretty darn great in wallets, and you shouldn't take certain design elements for granted because Well, true. The Ridge wallet can be a bit less clunkier. It's, as far as actual size, it's not super clunky. These wallets, this one's definitely a bit clunkier, but this is pretty darn slim. And it only gets thicker depending on, what you're wanting to use it for. So, yeah. If these wallets are typically going for like 10, 20 bucks, I say grab them. That's a steal, you know, because they're so much more functional. I mean, sure, the functionality you're going to get out of them is not going to be as common as the functionality for the Ridge wallet and similar type of wallets, but if you're going to be paying like 100 fucking bucks for something, you're going to want a good wallet for those rare occasions where you're going to be, you know, um, where you're going to be making it rain or other types of high snare situations. And you're going to want it to be able to accommodate that type of lifestyle in as cost effective a manner as possible. I mean, sure, you could say, oh, I can afford those fees, but you know what? No one has good times all the time, and the money you save, you can put right back into, you can spend it on more good times instead of paying exorbitant fees, ATM fees, credit card fees, etc. So, and given that you're paying all that freaking money in the wallet, it should be able to accommodate the times that you use a lot of freaking cash. And it just freaking doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't accommodate for that. And so, given that, I don't think it is worth anywhere near the $110, roughly that asking price. Sure, it has nice materials. So, I mean, is 10 bucks probably a bit too low for them to make a profit? Possibly. Maybe not. Could be that, the manufacturing of it is pretty cheap. It might be just about 10 bucks. Come in at 10 bucks and they got to make a profit. So I can understand why it's not, maybe they're not pricing it at 10 bucks. But to me, until the functionality of such a wallet were to allow for like as much as the thousands of dollars that I can carry in this pretty thin little wallet, and $1,000 cash, mind you. Yeah, sorry, it's not worth it. It's not worth more than 10 bucks. It's not worth, okay, it's a cheap, it's pretty cheap wallet. I can use it when I go to the grocery store, when I go do most things, but it's nice and it's pretty cool. It's trendy and stylish. But if I'm gonna, but I don't use it all the time, then I'd say fine, I definitely recommend, just getting it as like a little gimmicky wallet. But for 100 bucks, no, it's not worth it. Yeah. Get you can get a relatively cheaper wallet for a lot more quality and functionality. I mean, trust me, these types of wallets are not that bad, uh, and they give you a lot more bang for your buck, considering they tend to be pretty cheap. I mean, even this one. which can't hold as much compared to this, you still get a lot of freaking room. So yeah, it's I would say 10 times more functional than the Ridge. And this is $10 fucking dollars. Ridge wallet is like, I don't know. Yeah, 110 roughly. There's 115, there's 105 version. $10, in my view, a lot more bang for your buck than the Ridge. Go out, find a cheaper alternative. They exist. Don't be wasting your money on that kind of stuff. Because even if you like that style, I bet you can find a cheaper alternative. Maybe it doesn't use the same exact nicer materials because, you know, they want to make a buck. They're using nicer materials. They're going to upcharge you incongruent to how much they're spending on these materials. Just like if you use very cheap materials, you're going to be the upsell. Like this probably cost them to like 10 cents to make. And so they're selling it for 10 bucks. Versus Ridge probably cost them 10 bucks to make, and so they're selling it for 110, you know. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on the wallets, you know. A lot more bang for your buck. They can accommodate pretty much any scenario you would find yourself in. They've got a fair amount of room for cards. The $10 one I've got doesn't have as much room for cards. It's got 6 card slots plus and an additional one for an ID. And then there are those inside pocket areas for a few more, but not much more. So yeah, definitely not as functional as this a bit slimmer one. It's a bit thicker, a bit clunkier. So I mean, it's definitely fallen out of favor a bit compared to my 14-year-old wallet, but you know, still it's a great alternative. And I get insanely more value out of this wallet than I would have had I gotten a Ridge. So those are my 2 cents. Thank you.